Welcome to hell, film buffs. It's Straight Shooter here for another episode of How I See It. So today, I'm doing another Red Band review, which means the movie was rated R, so if I say fuck or shit or whatever, who cares? It's a Red Band review. Today, I'm going to be talking about Hellboy, 2019 reboot of the movie that Del Toro made so brilliantly. Just so you know, my review will have spoilers, as always. And I'm shooting at the illustrious Team Sound Studios once again. Hellboy is one of those comic properties that they probably never thought would work as a movie, but somehow Guillermo del Toro made the first and second movies work. You had Ron Perlman, who was a great Hellboy. I mean, you saw him on screen, and you're like, yeah, he's Hellboy. You know, it's just like an instant connection. And there's a great cast of characters. The monsters were done really well. The tone was really good. I mean, people thought, okay, Hellboy has to be rated R to work, but Del Toro proved that that wasn't the case. So now, we're in 2019. Guillermo del Toro couldn't or wouldn't do a third Hellboy to finish up the series, either because Ron Perlman wasn't in it, or Perlman wouldn't do it without del Toro, whatever the case may be. But now we have a reboot, because Hollywood loves reboots, right? So, David Harbour of Stranger Things fame stars as Hellboy. I think David Harbour did as best he could playing Hellboy. But I still think that he doesn't hold a candle to Ron Perlman's Hellboy. But that's just my opinion. It's how I see it, like always. The movie was rated R, so there was a lot of gore, there was a lot of violent scenes, there were curse words, of course. You also had Mia Jovovich, who played the villain in the movie. And she plays a witch that wants to bring forth the apocalypse by making Hellboy her agent and making him bring about the end of the world. And he wants nothing to do with that because he fights for good. Besides that, most of the other characters are pretty forgettable. Like, he has a couple sidekicks, if you want. There's this one guy that got bit by this cat demon thing, and he can turn into one of them. Which, okay, it kind of reminded me of Beast Boy from the Teen Titans. But he can only turn into the one creature or whatever. And then you have this girl that she can make the dead talk through her. She can do some martial arts, she can hold her own in a fight. There were these other creature villains that were pretty much throwaways. At the end of the movie, the apocalypse starts to happen and demons come out from hell and they start killing people. It was a lot weaker compared to the creatures in the first two Hellboy movies. I think that the movie suffered from following up an act that just worked really well, the first two Hellboy movies. And I think it just pales in comparison, but also it just felt like they were trying too hard to be different. Like, okay, let's make Hellboy rated R. Let's make Hellboy be different from Ron Perlman, and we'll have David Harbour, and he'll make jokes too, but the jokes from Hellboy just pretty much fell flat. I didn't really laugh, I don't think, at any one of his lines. The movie was pretty weak overall. That's where it's at. It was kind of boring, even though they did have action and violence and stuff like that. It didn't feel exciting to me. It didn't feel like they were really trying to amp up the movie. It just felt like they were painting by numbers. Like, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to make it look. And it just didn't work like Del Toro's vision worked. Hellboy didn't work like Ron Perlman made them work. Honestly, I wish they could have made Hellboy 3 with Del Toro. And I think this reboot was unnecessary. And I didn't really like it. And it's not just because I wanted to see Hellboy 3. I came into this movie hoping it would be good, thinking it might be good. But it didn't end up being good to me. I just kind of felt like its whole runtime, it was pretty much dragging. And it could have been about a half hour shorter too, to be honest with you. I wasn't crazy about the movie. I gave it a shot. I just thought it was okay. Not even okay. It was not very good, in my opinion. And what would I give the movie? Probably a D+. That's how I see it. There isn't much I need to elaborate on. I just didn't think the movie was very good. I can go over certain things that I didn't like, but overall, I just didn't like very much about the movie. If there was anything that I did like, I would say probably Mila Jovovich, because her character was different, and I thought that she was a good villain. I just don't think that the storylines were used very well. The script was all over the place. A lot of the lines, they were trying to be funny, but they kind of fell flat. And I just thought that they went overboard, no clear path to how they wanted to end it up. Which is probably because they're probably thinking it's going to set up another movie and another movie, but I doubt another movie will be made because I don't even think this movie did very well, and it wasn't very good. Some people will like it because I think it's pretty faithful to how the comics envisioned it, because the comics were a horror comic. But what works in the comics doesn't always work well on screen. And I think the first good example of that is the Watchmen movie, because it was faithful to the comics, but they changed some things. Like the ending, they changed it from it being a giant squid to Dr. Manhattan was being manipulated into blowing up New York. I think that storyline worked better than if they had the giant squid. They were trying to be so faithful to the comics, and they were trying to make it so different from the other Hellboy movies that it ended up being a mess. Like they said, this is what we want to do, this is A and B and C, but they forgot about how to make D through S work. Stay tuned because I have another review coming at your way today. See you in a bit.